he thought Mr. was gonna whoop me too. But I told him just straight, and he said, "I'm gonna let you work down there, but don't you tell the rest of them I'll let you work." So I got out of the truck and I walked on to the house, and oh, they come running up there. He said, "He still let you work?" I said, "He ain't letting me do nothing, man. I'm gonna work." "I don't see why he letting you work and won't let none of the rest of us work." I said, y'all don't want to work. Y'all want to stay here and work for 50 cents when you can make $1.
I'm gonna stop here, Daddy. It took Daddy 3 years to leave from Mississippi. First he had to leave because he couldn't leave right away because my grandparents, they threatened to take the property away from my grandparents. And he had to work an extra year to earn enough money so that he could move them off of their land to another place. And then after that, he saved enough money so that he could go north and then work. He went first to Chicago, and then he moved from there to Waterloo, Iowa, where I was raised. Every year for the next 25 years, my father went back south to stay with his family to fix up the land where my grandparents lived. Usually it was to dig the outhouse up and to move it over to another place or to fix some of the things around at the house. Now, yes, he was one of 13 children, but he, I think, was the one that was the most responsible. And then a number of them died very young, his brothers and sisters. Now there are 4 brothers and a sister that's left, and they still own some property down in Goodland, Mississippi, that is our family home that nobody lives in, but it's a family home because that means it belongs to all of our extended family. I'm the oldest of 11 children. My father has 9 daughters and 2 sons. He didn't get a son till after he had 8 daughters. So, I love my mother because she had 25 years of teenage daughters. Can you imagine? Anyhow, that's the beginning of our story, and that's the beginning of my story in my life. And I just want to share that with you. If you have questions, now's the time to think about what those questions were and are. And also, if you have a question, would you pass it up to the front so I can, because it'd be easier if we have like 1 or 2 places where we get the questions from. So would you think about what that question might be? In the meantime, I can tell you a little bit about me. Anybody have a question for me, you can just ask me. Daddy sang, he sang quartets, and he also sang secular songs. And I remember moving to Omaha, Nebraska when I was about 28 years old. And a woman lived across the street from me, and she had a bunch of kids and stuff. And my father came to visit me one time, and she looked at him and she said, "Dub Simpson, you Dub Simpson. Didn't he used to sing all over upper Mississippi and in Tennessee and places like that?" And Daddy used to sing. He was a traveler. In the meantime, on the weekends, when he wasn't picking cotton and stuff, he was singing and making money that way. But anyhow, he had groupies. Y'all know what a groupie is? Everybody follow you from every place. This woman was one of my daddy's groupies. And she would live across the street from me in Omaha, Nebraska. Daddy, here's a question. What kind of school, first I'll just do it in a kind of an order sequence here. What kind of school or education was there for people who worked on the plantation?
That the people hate.
What kind of school was it? Remember you were talking about Grandpa Hunter. I have a great-grandpa, Hunter.
Well, they had grade schools.
They had grade schools when you were growing up.
I was going to school, but I didn't go to school. They didn't let me go to school. I had to watch.
Remember, Daddy, what was your story about Great-Grandpa Hunter and how he learned how to read?
Well,
Great-Grandpa
the
Hunter
same
was
year I moved up, I had her great grandfather staying with me.
great-great.
All the family had died out, and he didn't have nowhere to go. And so I told her, I said, we'll go over and get Grandpa and bring him over and let him stay with me. So I went over and got him. He was living in an old house by himself, you know. And I said, Daddy Hunter, I said, come to get you. He said, I know you. I said, I don't think you do. I said, but I met your great-granddaughter. And he said, okay, I'll go. I ain't got nowhere else to go. I said, well, you get your clothes ready. I said, I'm gonna take you with me. And he got his clothes ready, and I had an old horse out there. I said, can you ride a horse? He said, sure, I can ride a horse. I said, well, I'm gonna put you on the horse and I can walk. And he had his bag there. I got his bag and I carried his bag, and I kept the reins in my hand because I didn't want the horse to hurt him. He got up on that horse, and we went them 3 miles with his clothes. Yeah, I had all his clothes in a bag, in a big one of our cotton sacks. He had a cotton sack of clothes too. I had the sack up on my shoulder, toting it and leading the horse, and he was up on the horse. And so I finally I had to rest 3 or 4 times before I got to the house. And I finally got there and got him down off the horse, and my wife come to the door. She said, oh, you done went and got Daddy Hunter? I said, yeah, I told you I was going in and get him. And he was so glad he didn't know what to do. And when I left him down there, I said, Daddy Hunter, I said, I'm going up north. And I say, well, you're going to have to be here with Big Mama now. I call her mother Big Mama. And he said, I can't go with you. He said, what I'm going to do? Say, you know they ain't going to be good to me like you. I said, well, I'll come back and get you one day. And he kind of cried, and it made me cry too because I didn't want to leave him. And I said, you'll be all right there, Hunter. I said, I'll come back and get you one day. And so that same year, he got sick and died.
I remember Daddy talking about Grandpa Hunter, my great-great-grandfather, and Grandpa Hunter had learned how to read by going and getting the Jackson newspaper, wasn't it, Daddy?
Well, they would bring the Jackson newspaper out, and they wouldn't, in the truck, you know, they was just slinging out. They don't know how to get the papers but white folks. They didn't let no black folks get no paper. When Daddy Hunter was working around the house, he said, and the way he learned how to read, so they would have him to take the paper out to the trash. And you make sure you put them papers in the trash. And so he'd put some in the trash, and say some of it he put in his bosom, on his shirt. And so at night, he'd go down behind the house and light a pine. You know, the pines grew then. You could light them with a match, and it burned just like a lamp. And he said he got on that ditch, and he read that paper, and he learned how to read like that. And he found out, they finally caught him with the paper then, and they stopped him from even putting the papers out then. He said, but he had to learn enough then to read.
He said, go ahead, Daddy.
And so when he went to town, he read a lot of stuff.
Daddy tells me the story about Grandpa Hunter reading, and that he would take the paper, he would go and stand behind one of the younger people who was of the plantation family, and he would say, what did that picture say? And the person would read the story, and so that's how Daddy Hunter learned what the words meant. He had to understand the alphabet, then he had to learn what the words meant, and then he had to learn how to read. And so you just can't take reading for granted. Daddy talks about when my father has like maybe a 6th grade education, and my mother has an 11th grade. But like Daddy said, he didn't get to go to school most of the time, so that wasn't a given. Now, Daddy, this question said, how did you like the Jim Crow laws and segregation laws? I remember it was more, what I think I wanted you all to see is that Jim Crow and segregation was more than black and white water fountains. It was a way of life. From a time you were born to the time you died, somebody tells you what to do, what to live, how to live, what you could eat, what you couldn't eat, where you could go and where you couldn't go. But Daddy, what was it like? The question is, how did you feel about them?
Well, I knew they had all to say anyway. White people almost hate all to say. Whatever they say, they had to go. And what I couldn't really understand, my mother used to cook for them, you know. And she would go out in the garden, you know, and gather stuff. White people at that time liked it, beans and peas and okra and stuff like that, and white potatoes. So I'd go down and help Mama to get the stuff together and take it to the porch, and she would cook it and everything. She'd get the dinner ready, and they'd all come in to eat and fix the table. And when Mama got the food ready, the table set, and they would come in and eat. But Mama couldn't sit down and eat with them. I said, Mama, you done went in there and cooked the food, and then they won't let you eat with them? She said, you know white people say, y'all can't sit down to the table with them and eat. She said, man, you have to eat out here on the back porch. I said, oh, I couldn't figure that out for nothing. And she said, that's the way that is. You know that's the way that is. Like, don't you ever forget that.
And we never forgot it. One of the things that I can remember is going back and forth to Mississippi every year, and Daddy would not stop at places that served where black folks had to go to the kitchen, to the back window to eat. We took all of our food with us. We took what we call a pea pot in the car. So if you had, because of all those girls, you had to go to the bathroom all the time. And so we peed in that little pot in the car. And Daddy went to sleep on the road in the dirt beside the car when he would get tired. I can remember those days so well.
Yeah, when I did work at Drass, I worked at the Drass Packing Company. They closed up, you know, about 10 years ago. They closed up. I imagine some of y'all read about it, the Drass Packing Company.
Their families may have that. These are younger than your grandchildren. Well, excuse me, y'all. Y'all are younger than many of my nephews and nieces.
Yeah, but
They
might have read something about it, but they probably didn't know what they was reading about. But anyway, I finally got me an old car, and I would go back down and see my mom and them about every year, and I'd take the kids. And one year I drove all night, and I finally got to Memphis. Gas wasn't but 15 cents a gallon then. If you didn't have 15 cents, they'd let you have a gallon for a dime. So I got to Memphis, and I had a $20 bill. I drove up to the station. I'm about in Mississippi now. Right out of there, it's about 20 miles out of Memphis, going south. You're in Mississippi, out of Tennessee. I drove in there. I pulled up to the station, and I filled my car with gas. You had to put your own gas in and go in and pay. So I put my gas in. I gave him a $20 bill. And I didn't think my car didn't hold $5 worth of gas. No, not like $5. I think I put like 15 gallons in there. And having this other white fella, I didn't know where he was from. He's a big, tall white fella. He's bigger than that guy sitting back there. Then he was standing behind me. And I gave him my $20, and he said, what are you waiting for? I said, I'm waiting for my money. I said, I got some money coming. I said, I didn't put in no $20 for gas. He said, you ain't got no money coming. I said, I'll give you a $20 bill now. I want my money. He said, you ain't getting no money. And this guy was behind me. I don't know where he was from. He said, what do you mean he didn't give you $20? He said, I'm standing here looking at you. The man give you $20. I said, hell, give him his money. He didn't say no more. He reached over there and hit the cash register and give me my money. And I put it in my pocket. I went on out. But he was going to have to shoot me that day. Asked me about all the money I had. Me and him was gonna fight in there. I didn't give him my $20. I wanted my change back. And just having that white man was in there. If we would have got in the fight. He probably would have done something to me and done something to the kids too. But I want my money.
One of the things that...
And that was the end of that.
That was one of the things Daddy and Mama always did is that they didn't teach us to hate white people or to hate anybody, but they did ask us to be fair and ask other people to expect other people to be fair as well. Daddy, what kind of advice, this is your last question, what kind of advice would you give young people today?
But those people down south?
No. Well, I know what you give them. But these young people here, what kind of advice would you give them? Now, Daddy has, there are about almost 30 grandkids now of us, of the siblings that from his children. I have over 300 first, second, and third cousins in my home in Waterloo, Iowa. I mean, and that's just cousins that are close by. And in our extended family, we're talking maybe 1,500 people that we know. But my 300 first cousins, those cousins that I know in Waterloo, are cousins that I can name and tell you who they are. So that's just on one side of the family. So you know we have a huge family. But Daddy, what kind of advice would you give them? If you were talking to JJ and Dwayne and the rest of them, what would you tell them about the way they ought to live their life today?
Well, I think first get yourself in church or somewhere and start out like that. And start to serving the Lord and doing the right thing and stay in school. That's the main thing. Stay in school and get your education. You can't get too much, because everything now is computerized and stuff like that. And if you ain't able to run computers and do things like that, you won't have a job. So you gotta have an education now. Education is the best thing going right now.
Daddy, what would you say? Go ahead, sir.
But you can get a job if you got a good education. You can get a job and got that piece of paper. That's what I told the man when I was working at Rath. They built a big drive there, a big drive where they killed cattle and hogs. Some of y'all know about where they killed cattle and hogs and sheeps and K's and stuff like that. They got, IBP got them all up and down the road now, stationed where they buy hogs and stuff. They got a big IBP plant in Waterloo there. And I would go there every day while that man out of Chicago was putting up that plant. Well, I couldn't read a blueprint then. And he said, well, I said, you over here every day. He said, you want to learn this job? I said, yeah, man, I want to learn this job. He said, when I get this job finished, you're going to know this job. So you just be over here every day. When he got through with that plant, he had a big board up there, that's just as big as that. Wasn't nothing but punch buttons up there and stuff. You run all the airlocks and lines and things up through there. He said, you're going to know this job pat when I get through with it. So when he got through with the job right there in Waterloo, and they put the job up for bid, and I bid it over there, and they put it up there, and I put my name down there. And the phone up there then at that time, that was in 47. I went there in 46. 47, they got the job completed over there. And they put it up for bid, and I went and put my name down there. And the foreman there told me, said, hey, ain't no need you putting your name down there, because ain't no Negroes going to work on this job. Well, I went back and I talked to the steward then. And he said, did he tell you that? I said, yeah, he told me that. He said, he wasn't no blacks going to work on that job over there. Said, that job's for a white man. He's never like it was in Mississippi. I said, well, I'll wait until the 2 weeks is up, and the job come down. The job come down, and they see who was the oldest bidder on that job. Me and two more white boys was on there. Well, they wouldn't let me go over there at the same time they let over there. They had a big argument and they had agreements and stuff. And so they finally said, well, he the oldest bid on that job. Said, why can't he go on there? He got more rights than the rest of these guys down there. Said, well, I don't think he know the job. He can't read the blueprint. I said, well, you can read the blueprint, can't you? I said, well, we'll go over there and see who can run the job and who can't. But that's the main thing. You want the job to go, don't you? He said, yeah. Well, he took him on over there. I said, well, I'll start the job up today. I started the job. I started it up. I went to the board, and I started punching buttons on that board. They said, how in that devil he know how to do all that? And I said, well, tomorrow you going to start it up. We ran it that day, and I got it all fixed up. And that next day, I come back, it was time to start it up. It's Paul Fain and his brother, two brothers. They was from Missouri. They didn't want to work with me because I was black. And I said, well, you guys started up this morning. He said, well, you got to show me such and such a thing. I said, well, I'm not going to show you anything. You didn't show me nothing. I said, you started. And they foreman come over. He said, well, how come the job ain't running? I said, the day is they started, and they say they can't start it. He went around there, and he talked to him, and he said, why you can't start the job? He said, well, I don't know how to start it. He said, well, Willie knew how to start it, and I think he showed you guys one day how to start it. And you still can't start it? He said, no, we can't start it. I said, well, I'm not going to start it every day, because you guys said y'all could start it. Well, he told me, he said, Willie said, won't you work along with him and show him Ralph Parker. Little old foreman about that high, but he was a doggone good fellow. He said, Willie, you go on and show him how to start the job, and y'all kind of work together.
Do it, Daddy. We got to stop now.
Okay.
We appreciate all that you've done. Daddy and Mama will celebrate their 55th wedding anniversary this Saturday. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Blanchard.
I hope that you all